Hello, Moji. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this interview at such short notice.
Hello, Kate. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Could you please start by telling us how long you've been working in the healthcare industry?
So, I finished medical school 14 years ago, and I have been in the industry since then. First, working as an intern, then as a general practitioner, then as a pediatrics resident, and later as a pediatrics teacher in the university, simultaneously working on my PhD. So, all in all, it's been about 13 to 14 years.
Wow, that's an impressive career. And what are the biggest obstacles for building a career in medicine now?
The way I see it, one of the biggest obstacles for building a career in medicine at the moment is um, wrong expectations. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that many young people are not fully aware of the difficulty of studying medicine and of practicing
Mm-hmm.
medicine. And so, because of that, they meet challenges. It's incredibly hard to study medicine, and it's incredibly difficult to practice. We have so many challenges in the practice of medicine. You have to deal with funding issues. You have to deal with difficult patients and difficult relatives of patients. Very emotional situations where you have to uh, give bad diagnosis, for example, or give bad news to the patient. And so these are incredibly either very emotionally difficult or frustrating sometimes situations. And many young people entering medicine do not know about these things. They do not know to expect them. And so because of that, if you're an emotionally, if you're not prepared for
Mm-hmm.
this, it can actually cause a lot of doctors to become
Mm-hmm.
disillusioned. They kind of lose hope about it, and we've had many doctors leave the field because of things like this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we've had medical students drop out. They're not able to cope with the challenge of their studies. So it's a big issue because, yeah, so that's what I think is what I would say the biggest obstacle is right
Mm-hmm.
now. Of course, I have to mention money, the economic aspect. It's also very expensive to study medicine, and um, not many governments are offering like scholarships at the moment. So you have a lot of people have to pay out of pocket, get student loans, and by the time they become doctors, they are owing a lot of money. So that's a problem. And if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about practicing already, then you have to, healthcare is expensive. So either insurance companies are unwilling to pay for certain services or certain
Mm-hmm.
procedures. Uh, sometimes patients have to pay out of pocket for serious procedures. So it's a difficult process. Um, yeah, that's what I think it is. And of course, for doctors, it's frustrating because you just want to treat your patients, but then you have these limitations many times. Yeah.
Oh, yes, that does sound tough, and funding has always been a touchy subject in this industry for sure. And at the same time, is the competition high in this market?
Well, as for competition,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it depends on your location. So, competition is high in certain regions of the world and in certain countries.
Mm-hmm.
Than it's higher there than in other places. If I live in Russia, if I were to take Russia as an example, obviously competition is higher in the bigger cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, and lower the farther away from these cities you move. And I think that's just a fact of life, really, for any industry. at all, including the healthcare industry.
Talking about money, what spheres of healthcare industry potentially bring the highest profits?
That's a nice question. So, as far as I know, the fields of medicine with the highest pay is mostly the surgical fields. I believe topping that list would be
Mm-hmm.
neurosurgery and cardiothoracic surgery, um, plastic surgery, of course. They are very well paid. Um, I believe obstetrics and gynecology is also well
Mm-hmm.
paid. Urology. Yeah, so these are the highest paid. Apart from surgical disciplines, radiologists are well paid as well. They make quite good money. So X-ray people, ultrasound diagnosticians, and
Mm-hmm.
depending on scarcity, sometimes some of the other disciplines also attract a good salary because in certain regions they may have a scarcity of these specialists, and so they may make the
Mm-hmm.
pay a little bit more attractive to attract doctors to those areas. So in that case, yeah, things like internal medicine or pediatrics, you may see a higher pay structure in those fields. But otherwise, the surgeons are making the cool dough. They're making the cool money.
Oh, yes, I think surgeons have always had it a bit better, right? And speaking about pharmaceuticals, Big Pharma is accused of extracting money from people without actually treating anyone, and also of inventing diseases which they later pretend to treat successfully. How much of that is true in your opinion?
Well, this is a very controversial topic, um, and I'm by no means an expert in this. But my opinion, you asked for my opinion, so I'll share it. I think that uh, the claims may not completely be true. It takes a lot of investment to come up with new medications.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from that perspective, uh, I believe that the big, so-called big pharma, the big pharmaceutical companies, they are putting their inputs into the
Mm-hmm.
development of healthcare generally. On the other hand, though, I believe that there may be some things that are not they are not doing so well. For example, having some medications which are necessary for survival of patients, and those medications are very expensive. Um, I don't think that healthcare should necessarily be run on profits per se, but of course, pharmaceutical companies are companies, they are businesses, and so when they make an investment, they need to make a profit. So it's a little bit of a problem for me, like an ethical
Mm-hmm.
or moral issue, because on one hand we're dealing with people's lives, but on the other hand this is a business in which people have invested and they need to make their money back. So it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in as much as these are businesses and companies, that they should have a sort of or use a sort of moratorium, moral code, like should still consider that some of these medications are absolutely necessary for life, and so we should find a way to make it affordable for patients. As to whether they invent diseases so as to sell their products, I really cannot comment on that because I have no insights whatsoever. I don't want to believe that that is being done. I'm optimistic and hopeful that it is not the case.
I also don't want to believe that these allegations are actually right. So we seem to have more and more viruses and diseases, COVID-19 and stuff like that. Is it true, or is the population generally becoming healthier?
Yes, it seems that we have more viruses or bacteria and more diseases, but I think that maybe it's not that we have more, but that we have better ways of detecting them. Many diseases which already
Mm-hmm.
existed in the past were only discovered many years into the future. I mean, closer to our time, more recently. Simply because we developed new technologies that
Mm-hmm.
helped us to be able to detect those diseases. So I think it's more not that we have new viruses, but that we have better diagnostic processes. As to whether we are healthier now, I wouldn't, I'm not sure I can say we are healthier. I think maybe, yeah, maybe we are healthier. However, um, we are not. So it's ironic, really, because it, it seems that we do live longer than we did before. I mean, the human race generally, our life expectancy is
Mm-hmm.
longer than it was in the past. So, which may testify to the fact that we are generally healthier than we were in the past. But at the same time, the years that we live, even though we
Mm-hmm.
live longer, how many people actually live healthier now than in the past? So, I think that somehow it seems we are a little bit weaker than we were. Um, Maybe it's maybe due to like our differences in our lifestyles. So now we are more exposed. We are exposed to more pollutants. We have more stressful lifestyles. We have more social problems, I think, than before. We have more, generally more dissatisfied. We are generally more dissatisfied with our life as it is compared to the past. So mentally and physically, I cannot say that we are much healthier. But if we take a an objective parameter, which is life expectancy, then based on that, we can say we are healthier.
Mm-hmm. I see. And the final question, now that autumn has come, what advice could you give our listeners to stay safe and healthy?
Summer is over, autumn is here. One of the main health concerns that people have is viral infections. So, my advice to everyone is to eat well, have a balanced diet, have moderate exercise as a minimum. This will help to keep up your immunity. Try to avoid stress, so get time off to rest. That will also help to keep up your immunity. And just stay happy. And oh, dress warmly. Dress warmly. It's getting colder, so don't expose yourself to the cold unnecessarily. Dress warmly. So that's my advice to everyone.
Margie, thank you so much for doing this interview. It was a pleasure talking to such an experienced professional.
Thank you so very much, Kate. It was such a joy to share my thoughts with you. Take care. Bye bye.